welcome to a new episode of Market Targets. And I know I did skip 1 week of this series last week, but it was for good reasoning, and you guys will find out on this YouTube channel soon, very, very soon. So stay tuned, guys. But I just want to hop right into what this week has in store for us. And I chose a total of 9 pairs that I'm looking at this week. And those 9 pairs are going to be Euro AUD, NZD USD, NZD CAD, USD CHF, GBP CHF, AUD CHF, AUD NZD, Euro CAD, and AUD CAD. Those are the 9 pairs I decided to look at for the week. And let's jump right into Euro AUD. So Euro AUD was doing a pullback on this bearish trend, and in my opinion, I think it just had the weak slowdown that I was looking for. And now that it did that, I'm definitely looking for a sell on this pair. And as you can see here on the daily time frame, it's doing a nice rejection off of this resistance, and it's also rejecting the EMA. So it's finally under it, and it did reject this candlestick right here. It did not disrespect it. So in my opinion, I honestly do think it's going to keep going to the downside. But the 4 hour is going to be my main time frame for this week on this pair. If I do get a change of trend right here off this 4 hour structure, going to the downside, I'm going to look for my entry and enter a short on this one. I do think it's going to bounce off of this support for sure, or at least touch it. So that's going to be most likely where I'm going to aim my risk to reward. So let's put a short risk to reward right here. Pretty much, let's say add it around here. Let's say it just does that. And then I go down to the 1 to 2. That's pretty much where I would look at. Even though that this is a good stop loss, to be honest, that's a lot. That's over 50. So let's see if I get a nice, better structure later on tonight. All right, NZD USD is up next. So NZD USD, it is bearish on the weekly time frame, and it did a nice double tops, and it did a bearish engulfing right here. So it's giving me all indications that it does want to do a continuation of where it left off last week, which is going to the downside. I did put a 4 hour support and resistance level right around here that it is perfectly rejecting right now. So this might be ready very soon. I might wait for this one on the New York session tomorrow morning. So I'm gonna wait and see just in case. Next up is NZD CAD. So NZD CAD, I'm looking for a short on, looking very ugly in my opinion on the weekly time frame. And on the daily time frame, I know that it is bullish, but I do think it is trying to pretty much close under the structure with the little head and shoulders that it is creating. And that's what I'm trying to catch. I'm trying to catch the creation of this right shoulder right here. And if you go down to the 4 hour time frame, the time frame already broke structure to the downside, and it's looking like it cooked up a good short at the end of last week. So it might be ready tonight. Might wait, might not. I'll definitely wait and see. I'll also check out the news on the CADs this week because I think there's some major news. But regardless, I'll wait for that one. Next up is USD CHF. So that one did a great push to the upside. Actually, I wanted this push to the upside last week, and now it's doing it. It's finally under this EMA on the weekly, so it does give me an indication that it does want to go up. And it did a great push to the upside last week off of this support. Honestly, did have this on my list last week. I just didn't make any trades at all. Actually had a few of these pairs last week on my list that did do the move, and I did not catch them last week because I was too busy. But this week is looking like it might want to continue to the upside. But on this particular pair, I would like to go on to the smaller time frame and wait for a shift of trend to the upside and downside once again, so I could, look and be interested in getting into this trade on a long. Next up is GBP CHF. Did a beautiful move super beautiful. Like honestly, engulfed completely the last 4 days. But since it did engulf the last 4 days of the week on the weekly time frame, it did create a hangman. But the EMA is now under this candlestick right here, so it does give us a good indication that it might want to go to the upside. But I'll definitely be more on the lookout with this pair just because of the hangman it created on the weekly time frame. The 4 hour is needing a little pullback in order to go to the upside. The 2 hour, same thing. 30 minute, it went, it has not gone bearish, but it could go bearish in order to get that 1 hour and 2 hour pullback. And then once it shifts back bullish, maybe that's the entry that we could get in order to enter this long. Next up is AUD CHF. So AUD CHF, I'm looking for a long on after it did a beautiful long move last week. That it did a shift of structure now on the daily time frame on Friday. So I'm gonna see if it wants to do a little pullback onto this support and then continue to the upside, or if it wants us to use a 4 hour support and resistance level in order for it to get rejected and move to the upside. I am playing with a bit of fire on this one just because it's at its highest point it's been at in about a year. So I'm definitely asking for it to pretty much create a new yearly high, and that's totally fine. I do have this pair as one of my favorites, and I do see the potential of this long after it did shift the structure on the daily. So on the smaller time frames, definitely looking for that pullback. And as you can see there, the 1 hour and 30 minute are doing that pullback for the 2 hour and 4 hour time frame, and the actually the 30 minute went bearish. So since it went bearish, I'm just gonna alert right around here. And when it does go above that area, I'm most likely gonna enter the long. AUD NZD. AUD NZD, I'm also looking for a long on. And the weekly and the daily, I believe, is still bearish. Yes, it is. So this is a risky trade, to be honest. So I might not even enter this trade, but I just do like it a lot, just also because we have CPI on AUD this week on Tuesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. And that's what I'm going to be hunting in order to enter this trade most likely, just because on EUD or NZD news, AUD NZD gets hit really hard. They have very similar currencies, so since they work almost the same way currency wise, it does great reactions on high level news. And this week is one of those weeks, so I'll definitely be on the lookout for it and see if it wants to give me an entry before the news hits or right when the news hits. Next up is EuroCAD. So EuroCAD is looking very nice to keep going to the upside. It did a nice little bullish engulfing on the daily time frame, and it did do a nice continuation and break of a new higher high on the weekly time frame. So that's good. Since it did that, I might just wait to see if it wants to do a pullback or not before I enter this trade. So this is going to be a very important trade in order for me to look at, just in case I do mess up and it wants to keep going to the downside on the daily and hit the support level in order to keep going up and obviously take me out. This is a very wick out type of pair, so you have to have a nice and safe stop loss in order to take any entries on this pair, to be honest. Next up and last is AUD CAD. AUD CAD, I'm looking for a long on. Did a great move to the upside last week. On the weekly, did do a shift to trend bullish after it did go bearish because this higher high went under this higher low and shifted bearish, and that became the lower low and that the lower high, and now it went to the upside. Now there's the higher high, that's the higher low, looking beautiful honestly to keep going to the upside. Has this is a big ass double bottom, to be honest. Holy shit, like a lot of structure has been created there. The 4 hour is rejecting perfectly off the support, the 2 hour as well, 1 hour as well. 30 minute is now bearish, so I'll look for more structure down here. Boom, boom, until this probably wants to go to the upside. So I'll probably wait for more structure to the downside. Then boom, then right here, that most likely is what I'm looking for. And then boom, shoots up, and I'll catch that entry and enter the long. So, with that being said, that concludes another episode of Market Targets, and let's make some money this week.